Numbers have now been released by the ABS. They're better than expected. Seasonally adjusted unemployment rate increased by 0.1 percentage points in March to just 5.2%. It also says the underemployment rate increased by 0.1 percentage points to 8.8%. The participation rate remained steady at 66%. And the number of people employed in March actually increased by around 6,000 jobs. So a much better reading here on the data than everyone was expecting, Tom.
Sure is. Ed Boyd, thank you. So we'll digest that number with my panel now, Adam Crichton, economics correspondent at The Australian, and my co-host here at Sky News, Annalise Nielsen. Adam, your thoughts first of all. This is much better than expected. I know we're bracing for a much bigger figure. We've seen the cues at Centrelink. We know the reality of this, but does this at least go to show the economy was okay before all of this hit? Does it mean perhaps things won't be as bad next month? What's your take?
Well, certainly it does lend some credibility to the government's argument, which has been for the past few months that the economy was pretty strong, relatively strong, kind of going into this crisis. You're right to say that this is a surprise. The range of market expectations, as I understand it, was 5.3% for March to 5.8%. So 5.2 really is a good result. You'll probably see a bounce in the dollar today. But as you were saying earlier, and your other guests have been saying, this, the survey was the first half of March, so it really is not kind of relevant to seeing the impact of the various economic shutdown restrictions. We have to wait another month for that. I still think the unemployment rate will climb a great deal. So, I mean, as a news event, this is not particularly exciting because it's so backward looking. So, it's probably going to be painful.
There's a prediction, page 4. Annalise, I suppose it shows how much this figure really does lag. And look, it's a small spot of bright news, I suppose, but we're just bracing for such a higher figure. How much will this really affect what we're going to see by June, for example?
Absolutely, and it is interesting. I was looking at the release from last month and they were saying then that they still hadn't seen the full impact of unemployment figures coming through from bushfire impacts, and so it seems like perhaps that might not have come through as drastically as was predicted. But the other thing to really keep in mind with these figures is just how relevant they're going to be when we have this huge JobKeeper package come through. I was talking to the ABS yesterday and they were saying that those who are on JobKeeper will be considered employed because they still have that ongoing connection with their employer. That's what the ABS asked them. Do you have an employer? So the answer is yes. Even though they are subsidised by the government, the next question is, are you being employed in sufficient hours? Are you employed as many hours as you'd like? And so you'd assume most people on JobKeeper would say no, although some people might be enjoying the wage subsidies and the time at home, but that would be quite unusual, you would think. And so it's going to be just something we have to take with a grain of salt from this point, because it is just such an extraordinary package to have. I think it's 600,000 businesses now under the JobKeeper program. This is just really unprecedented in this kind of statistic.